Mm. Well, good morning. Good morning to everybody. I am so glad to be with you this morning, and I'm excited about what we have in store for everybody this morning. In fact, we've got really a double header for everyone, and this is an exciting time for all of us as we are preparing for the May primary. We're preparing for the May primary, and really wanting to encourage everybody who's watching, everybody who has voting age family members. Want to encourage everybody to be certain to vote on this coming Tuesday. Please be out to get out and vote. So I'm really glad to have you with us this morning. Ronell, good morning to you. I'm glad that you're here. Hello, Janet from Connecticut. Glad that you are here. And Linda, so really grateful that you're with us this morning. As others are joining us, Marietta, glad that you're here. And Kim, what a wonderful honor it is to have you with us this morning, as well as Benita. So we have with us, hey, Jonathan, glad that you're here this morning. I'm so very happy that you're here. We have with us this morning Councilman David Mann, and Councilman Mann is running for mayor for the city of Cincinnati. As all of you who have watched Coffee with Bishop, and I certainly hope that you've gotten your coffee, folks. Hope you have your coffee. Yep, hope you got that, your morning brew. So hopefully that you're able to enjoy that with us this morning. As I said earlier, we've got a double header this morning, and I want you to, if you're able, I want you to be able to be here with us for Councilman David Mann's presentation this morning, and then we have Raphel Prophett, who will be with us when Councilman Mann is concluded. So I'm so glad, David, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Really grateful that you've been able to take the time to be with us here on Coffee with Bishop.
Well, thank you, Bishop. As always, I enjoy being with you. And as we were discussing, I look forward to the time that we can see each other face to face. And my wife and I so enjoy hearing you preach. So we'll be back as soon as this I call it the pandemonium of the pandemic is over.
Absolutely. The pandemonium of the pandemic. That's a great way to describe it. Listen, Councilman Mann, most of our viewers already know you, but can you just share with us what really, two things, what's been going on with you politically over the last 3 to 5 years, and you have the opportunity now to share with us the planks of your platform. What is it that you want us to know about what you are standing for should you become mayor of the city of Cincinnati?
Well, sure. I appreciate very much opportunity to. I have had a checkered a career of public service that began a long time ago. I was first appointed to council when Jerry Springer had a moment of disgrace, and then I served for 18 years, 3 years as mayor, and I had the privilege of serving in the U.S. Congress for 2 years. And then I was a civilian. I was on sabbatical, as I say, for some 20 years, and started a law firm with my son. We practiced law as man and man. And then I got involved with a couple things in the community. But, there's more that I can do and should do. And so I presented myself to the voters in 2013. And after a 20-year break, they were kind enough to take a chance and elect me. And I've served now, it's almost 8 full years, 2 4-year terms. I was vice mayor in the first term, and then the second term, I became the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. And I've enjoyed this return to service. The city is a little different now. We have a direct elected mayor who has more powers than was true when I served before. The things that I'm talking about on the campaign trail, first of all, there's a lot of disappointment with what's happened in City Hall in terms of my that have had troubles with the federal authorities and been indicted and so forth. And so there's a need to restore trust at City Hall, which we traditionally have had. When I first was appointed, Ted Berry was the mayor of Cincinnati, and a person of such integrity and honor. Bobby Stern was beginning her career. And so it hasn't been the way it appears to be in the last year. So number one, we need to restore trust we're doing some things to make it less likely that a member of council will be in a position to trade votes for money. And of course, if you're bad and you're willing to do that, I suppose no matter what the rules are, you're going to do that. Number one. Number two, obviously the pandemic has had a tremendous negative impact on lots of human beings in our community. Folks are being evicted because they lost their jobs. Small business owners are being impacted because their customers have gone away. The list of things just goes on and on and on. So we got to get past that. And I think when we were talking about how much longer we're going to deal with the pandemic, and just now the Budget and Finance Committee is struggling with how best to spend a bunch of federal money that's coming our way as a stimulus relief package, $291 million, the first half of which comes to us next week. And we need to use that in a way that heals the damage that has been done in the last year and a half to the city and the city budget, to small businesses, and to the citizens of this community. So there are a number of ideas on the table, and we're going to start making decisions this coming week. Beyond that, obviously, if you think about what's happened in our world in the last year and a half, and I'm talking about George Floyd and the understandable reaction in our community and elsewhere. I hope, is this a moment that we can really do something positive, not just to deal with law enforcement issues and making sure that citizens who happen to be Black are treated with respect and with justice by police officers, but are we going to do something with the disparity that continues? I have on my desk a copy of the local Urban League's 2015 report that concluded that Cincinnati was a community, a tale of two cities, Black and white. And it documents in great detail, I'm sure you're familiar with this, the differences on a number of demographic factors, whether it's poverty, whether it's employment, whether it's life expectancy, whether it's infant mortality rates, educational opportunities, housing, and the like. And so what I am saying is time's up. We need to address those, and we need to not tolerate some of the things we've tolerated too long in our society. So those are my bag of priorities. And obviously, we're going to have a new council that is very tremendous change in the players because of term limits, because of some of the other things that have happened. So there's only one elected member of council, Greg Landsman, that's even eligible to run for election. So no matter what happens, we're going to have a lot of new faces. And I think maybe the worst thing would be if the person who's mayor doesn't have the kind of experience that allows you to be in charge and know where the lights are to turn on day one and take the awesome responsibilities of the job. So those are the things on my mind. We never know everything that's going to be encountered as the days and months go by, but we got plenty to do, believe me. And I think, and I do think that once we get past the pandemic, there are a lot of great things underway. So our best days are ahead of us, but we got some tough times to go through to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're being the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. I'm certain that this question has come to your mind, and you've thought about this a lot, especially when it comes as it pertains to issue 3. And with the $50 million, I think I'm getting that correct. The $50 million is being proposed to be set aside every year for affordable housing. What's your view, Councilman Mann? What's your view on issue 3?
Well, issue 3 is concerns me in a number of ways. Our general budget is only money, but it's $400 million a year. Issue 3, if it passes, will require us, without exception, to spend $50 million every year on affordable housing. That can only come from the other things that we use that $400 million for now. And the proponents say, well, that's your problem. We didn't have to designate a revenue source. And I don't think it's that simple. So it's not the best way to address the problem. Now, there is a very real problem with human beings who are Cincinnatians who cannot afford their housing, and children who, in the course of a school year, have a number of different addresses and therefore a number of different schools. Things that really impact their growth and their maturing, and imposes on them things that we don't want any children to have to deal with. So there's a real problem. The city's actually been doing a lot. We've created, in the last 6 years, several hundred new affordable housing units every year. We've done so in partnership with the private sector, in partnership with various nonprofit organizations. It's not easy to provide good, affordable housing that's economically viable going forward. And this is one of the problems with the Charter Amendment. It's not clear exactly what would be done with the money. There would be a board that council would be required to appoint, composed mostly of people that would be nominated by outside groups. And this board would have unprecedented authority to decide without any oversight how the money's spent each year, to negotiate contracts that the city manager would be required to sign. So I don't know whether the plan is to build single family homes, whether the plan is to build or renovate large apartment units, small apartment units, or the like. And I would feel more comfortable if there were at least some explanation of what the plans are there. Now, interestingly, and part of this may be in response to the initiative that was supported by 9,500 citizens. That's no small part of the electorate. But we have recently approved an application to HUD for a loan of $34 million that will be applied just to affordable housing. And we plan to put those funds with the Cincinnati Development Fund, a nonprofit organization that already has developed a lot of affordable housing. So that's good. The city manager proposed legislation that will create, in which we adopted, a housing advisory board, which will have responsibility to report back to the city administration and ultimately to council with some specific proposals of how best to use the funds that become available to us, how best to partner with the resources that we do have. So there's a lot that we're going to do, and I think it's a better solution than do I concede that the field on the other is being more attention? Yep. And that is a good thing in the sense that we do often respond rather than have solutions before enough people say, I want you to take a look at this. So those are my ideas.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that's also on the table is the reaffirmation, relooking, reinvestigation, what you will, of the collaborative agreement that was signed it has been over 20 years ago, that really impacted policing in the city of Cincinnati. What's your position on really police reform and what steps Cincinnati has taken in that regard?
I've got a complete file here on the history of the collaborative agreement. I've been spending a lot of time going over that. It's been just quite a bit on the campaign trail. And the important thing is to take some pride in how much our police department has evolved positively in the last 20 years. I mean, tragically, it required the death of Timothy Thomas. It required a lot of folks in the community hitting the streets and saying enough is enough. And the collaborative agreement was a process under the sponsorship and review of Federal Judge DeLotte. It resulted in a framework for community police problem solving, and our police is better. When I was during that period, that's when I was a civilian, as I call it, on my sabbatical. But during that 20-year period, there was a tremendous evolution in my experience talking with police officers when I came back. and attitudes about the value of collaborating with citizens and citizen groups, advocates like ours, Rowley and Pastor Lynch III, and others. So we can take pride in what we've done. That doesn't mean we stop. We must remain committed to continuous improvement, which says, I don't care how good you are today, we want you to be better. And how do you get better? You commit yourself to being better, and you do so in a disciplined, organized fashion with conversations with community groups and the like. We've had a refresh of the collaborative agreement. Saul Green, who was the outside Department of Justice overseer, came back and did a study. He had some critical comments, and we have been and are responding to that. The city manager has an advisory group with which she is committed to meet regularly. So, and one of the things that has been called out and addressed, it should have been addressed sooner, was fully funding the Citizens Complaint Authority. We have a wonderful new director, Gabe Davis, who is grew up in Cincinnati. His dad was a police officer. He has a well-worked education, went to Ivy League schools, law school, and was recently a candidate for prosecutor. He is African American, and he is committed to making sure that the backlog of cases are addressed, and he's going to be very, I think, very aggressive about making reform proposals, and the city council is going to be very insistent that the proposals are looked at. Not all proposals are good on analysis, and we have, in my view, a man who's done a wonderful job as police chief, Chief Isaacs. Unfortunately, I think he's going to retire on us this summer, the number of years before public employees are invested in their pensions or fully vested. Maybe it's because of my white hair. It seems like they're retiring younger and younger. But anyway, he's earned his retirement, and so we will have the challenge of selecting his replacement. But he's been I think across the board, he's well thought of.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the makeup of city council. Nationally, there's been a lot of conversation regarding the Biden administration wanting to work in a bipartisan way to cross the aisle. And there's been some pushback about looking at things in a bipartisan fashion. What's your take on the power or the impotency of bipartisanship?
Well, we're blessed with a small council, right? Only 9 people. And in my 26 years, and we have a nonpartisan ballot, so there's a tradition. And for a long time, we've had a third political party, a committee. It didn't want to be a political party. They put up own slates of candidates. And over the years, we've been well served by leaders from the charter committee: Ted Berry, Bobby Stern, Roxanne Qualls. And we've been well served, in my view, by wonderful folks from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. I had the privilege of serving for years with Kuchenberger. Amy Murray was more recently a member of council. I think we're better off, frankly, if all 3 parties are represented. The voters decide that, and there's no question that the city's demographics or the city partisan-wise has changed. And the county has. I mean, we are seeing more Democratic victories at the judicial race level, the county, the other county offices. So the county has changed. And in my experience at City Hall, because there are only 9 of us, because we have the professional city manager providing the administrative leadership, and because we get to know each other so well, we just don't say, well, that's a Republican, that's a Democrat. We try to find solutions together, and I think it works better if that happens. And then sometimes it's not going to happen. I mean, sometimes we have partisan votes, and that's going to happen. The parties, after all, do stand for something in our society. And I'm a Democrat. We were talking about this before we went on the air. Bishop, I don't mean to call you out, but I think you said you were a Democrat and a proud Democrat. But the point is that we're Democrats because there's a baseline of values and positions that we subscribe to. But nobody says every Democrat has to believe in all the list of things that's in the national platform. But unless you hew to most of them, then maybe you're not a Democrat. So anyway, it's a little bit complicated. It's less complicated when you're talking about 9 people. When I went to Congress and had my 2 years over there, it was different. I mean, I was used to collaborating all the time with my colleagues in council. You get to Washington, and the expectation is basically that you should have, you don't fraternize with the Republicans on the other side. The committees have different waiting rooms, Democratic, Republican. On the House, we have 2 spaces for Republicans and Democrats off where there's coffee available and stuff like that. The caucus rooms, but they're separate. So, and when the new members of council got orientation, the Democrats went to the Kennedy School. Like 1 Republican went up, and this was at the time of Newt Gingrich and the separation that he was inspiring, and the Republicans didn't go, and they had been going up there, and I don't think that's healthy. But anyway, it's a different place, and I think we suffer sometimes because we don't have the ability to solve big problems that do require serious input from both sides of the aisle.
Got you. David, one of our viewers has asked, with decades of public service, with your decades of public service, why run for mayor now? And what is it that you can bring new to the city of Cincinnati that will help those persons who are disenfranchised?
I think my work is not done, and I've had the privilege to serve for a long time. I've been blessed with good health, and I lost my mother last fall at the age of 103, and as long as I think public service has become my purpose in life, in addition to being the patriarch of my family. So that's number one. Number two, there's more to do, and I was outlining how important it is to continue to work on this journey that we haven't completed yet, that treats Black and white citizens all economic, opportunity-wise, city support for businesses, Black businesses, economic inclusion when it comes to the award of city contracts. We were just now, the Justice Department out of the blue says that the consent decree that has been in existence since the first time I was mayor, and it was originally negotiated by the American Senator of the city, and would specify each police recruit class has to have a specified percentage of African American members and female members. The Biden Department of Justice is saying, well, that's not needed anymore. Well, we are strongly objecting, and I hope we can turn it around. So the fight never ends, and that's something we thought we had achieved, and we have the new challenges. So I think my experience, I think we were talking about the new faces will be on council. I think I can be helpful there, and I have energy. I'm looking every day for new ways to attack the problems that still seem to be with us.
That one of the other questions that has been raised, and this was all over television, David, was that last year when you walked out of the Budget and Finance Committee, last year when all the young people were really honestly concerned about Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, those murders, the question arises here: would you do the same thing over again?
Of course, I did end the meeting. I didn't walk out. I know that some people want to characterize it that way. The problem with the meeting, and we had many hours of hearings before that evening. We had many hours of hearings after that. That meeting, people stopped listening to each other, and the whole point of an elected body having a hearing is to allow anyone and everyone to speak their mind. And there was a lot of emotion, a lot of passion. And as I've rethought that evening, I should have, before I ended the meeting, I should have declared a recess and see if we couldn't get everybody on a different plane and listen to each other. That's the only alternative that I can think of. But the meeting was definitely breaking down, and I apologize to those who were offended. I think for a lot of reasons it was probably a good decision because the room was kind of getting out of control. But anyway, at the moment I made the decision, it had nothing to do with my willingness. In fact, the next morning there were people a block from my house who wanted to meet with me, and I walked down there with my wife, and we chatted about the way forward. And I'm still open to talk to anyone, and that's how we just figure out what the choices are that make most sense for this community.
If you are elected mayor, David, how will the citizens know in perhaps 2 years, in 2 years' time, how will they know that they made the right choice in electing you?
Will we be past the pandemic? Will there be a sense that that we really are on the move to attain our goal of being a place where our children want to stay, or the ones that leave want to come back, and young people from around the country are very excited about being here. Also a community that is perceived as a place that is seeking always to have true racial justice and improvement in those demographics I was citing to later that the Urban League report is filled with. Is childhood poverty down, and is there no longer a large difference between black and white children? What about the unemployment rate? What about, the one that gets me is life expectancy, and the reality that a baby born today from Avondale will live 20 years less than a baby born from North Avondale right next door. That tells us that there's something really, really wrong. And I would hope I could stand up in 2 years and say, we've made progress here.
Gotcha. One of the final questions, I have two other questions, and then we'll give you opportunity to just share whatever it is that you'd like to end our conversation with. With this whole notion of a strong mayor, we talked about that early on. The whole point of a strong mayor and the city manager. How is that relationship positioned? What happens there when you have a strong mayor and you have a city manager? And of course, is it your intention to keep the same city manager? What's the plans there?
I'm very pleased with the job that Paula Boggs Youth is doing, and I hope she's stable. Basically, the stronger mayor. It's not quite the same as some cities. The mayor is elected and is the executive. Our city charter retains the city manager as the CEO, the chief administrative officer, but obviously the mayor is perceived as more than before as the figurehead of the city. The mayor picks the vice mayor, picks the chairs of the committees of council. That's new power. Those are new powers. The mayor controls the agenda that comes before council. So all those things have changed what happens. But we've got, I think it was a triangle. We got city council, we've got the mayor, and we got the city manager. Each has an important role, and our city is best served if each of those three, the triangle, are strong, respect the other two parts of the triangle, and try as best they can to work together. And it's very important that the mayor and the city manager be on the same wavelength. If you have a city manager and a mayor who are at odds, the system's going to fail. And we had that problem with Mayor Cranley and City Manager Harry Black. And I'm telling you, for a couple months, things were frozen. So, and we got past that, thank goodness. So,
Gotcha. So you've got a captive, you've got folks here who are here because they are very interested in what's happening in the city of Cincinnati. They're very interested in this primary election. I want to remind everybody that the primary election is this coming Tuesday. It's this Tuesday. I know it has kind of all of a sudden shown up, but it's here. It's here. It's coming Tuesday. Right. And I want to encourage everybody who's on here, to make certain that if you are in Cincinnati, that you go and vote in this primary election. One of the things that some folks may not understand is that there are a number of people who are running for mayor, but it is only the two who get the highest number of votes after Tuesday or on Tuesday. Those will be the two folks who will run for mayor. So you gotta go and vote. Your vote is very important. These issues are exceptionally important. You've got to go and make your voice known by going to the poll and voting it. You got to do that. You must do that. So my last question to you, Councilman Mann, is you've got folks here who are very interested. They're interested in what's going to happen in our city. What are the last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the people who are watching?
Let me just say two things, Bishop. First of all, I really appreciate the chance to be with you, and I'm a great admirer of you and the great church that you've built, and so I count it a high privilege to have a few minutes with you. First of all, yes, vote on Tuesday, and as you point out, if there's someone that you care about a lot and plan to support in November, that person, unless the person's in the top two, and unfortunately, all the candidates are men, but you won't have that option in November. And you can early vote today. You can early vote Saturday, Sunday at the Board of Elections, and Monday, although the Monday hours are more limited. But basically, I count. In closing, just let me say I humbly ask you to consider supporting me. It has been a fantastic privilege of my life to serve you for so many years. I think I have more to do. I think my experience can be particularly useful given the new council that's coming. And let's pray together about the future of our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I want to share with everybody. Don't go anywhere because we have a double header. We have a double header today. This is the first time on Coffee with Bishop that we've got a double header because we have Raphel Prophett, who will be on in just a few minutes, who is also running for mayor, and we will hear him share his platform with us as well. So David Mann, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We really appreciate all that you have shared with us today, and thank you so much for being here.
My privilege. Take care now.
So I really want to remind everybody that, as I just said, that we have Mr. Prophett who's going to be on with us in just a few minutes. We will be sharing with you, or he will be sharing with you his platform as to what it is that he is motivating him to run for mayor. And so we're really looking forward to having him with us today. And this is the first time we've done this, the very first time that we've had a double header like this. And so I hope that you'll be able to stay to hear Raphel Prophett. I hope that you'll be able to be on here to hear him and to hear his platform. Okay. I want to remind you, I just said it a few minutes ago, and I need to remind you, please, if you have not early voted, make certain that you do vote in this election. This will be the fourth candidate that we will have had on here, the fourth candidate that we will have had. We've had Cecil, we've had Aftab, we've had David Mann, and now we're going to have Mr. Prophett on with us. And so you are able to see, the platforms that folks are believing in, the things that they are believing in. And I pray that you've been listening to what folks are saying, and that you will make an educated decision about who you're going to want to be mayor of the city of Cincinnati. So please, 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 please pay. And I think many of you have been on every one of these coffees with Bishop to hear the candidates, to hear what they have to say. So take the time, please. If you have not already early voted, if you have not voted by Tuesday, please be sure that you go and you cast your vote, you cast your ballot on Tuesday. Be sure that you do that because this is an essential, folks, where our city is headed. It's essential. It's essential that we have a mayor that's going to be moving the city of Cincinnati, helping to move the city of Cincinnati in the right direction. All right. And so don't take this primary election lightly. This is an important, a very, very important election because you are going to determine who are the two people who are going to run for mayor in November. And I hope that you see that as a real important responsibility on your part. If we were on regular television, we would take a break and we would have a commercial. I don't have a commercial. I don't have a commercial for us as we wait for our next guest, who will be showing up momentarily. In fact, he should be here within 4 minutes. And so I can't sing, so I won't embarrass myself or hurt your ears by hearing me sing. So I won't do that. And so I could preach, but I'm not going to do that either this morning. I'm not going to do that. But I do need you to stay. I need you to stay here. I need you to stay with us because I do want you to hear what Raphel Prophett has to say about his candidacy for becoming mayor of the city of Cincinnati. And if you've got some questions, I really appreciate the questions that folks asked in the comment section. Really, Iris, thank you for the questions that you raised. Thank you so much. Alicia, thank you for your questions. And Jonathan, thank you so much for your questions, because we want this to be an opportunity as much as possible. And I can't get all the questions on. I can't do all of them, but I really want to make this an opportunity for you to be able to ask questions. I want that to be your ability to do that. Okay, so I do want to say this. I want to get us just for a minute out of politics. I want to get us into the church, Christ Emmanuel, just for a minute, because we're going to get back into politics once Mr. Prophett gets here. So this is what I want you to know. No, you cannot. Marietta, if you live in North College Hill, you can't vote in the city of Cincinnati for the mayor. No, you can't do that. You have your own jurisdiction. And so if you live in College Hill, you can vote for city manager. If you live in North College Hill, that's a separate, almost a separate city, if you will, and it has its own governance. So you cannot vote in the city of Cincinnati. I hope that makes sense. So I do want to remind everybody that you do not have to make a reservation to come to the sanctuary on Sunday. You do not have to make a reservation. I repeat, you do not have to make a reservation. However, we do still have limited seating. We have set a cap as to how long or how many people we can have in the building. We've set a cap there. We're going to maintain that cap, even though you don't have to make a reservation to come. But we are still maintaining the capacity that we will only allow to be in the building to keep everybody safe. You still must wear a mask, and you still must have a temperature check before you get into the sanctuary. We also may be asking you, listen, don't think, well, why are they doing all this? Because we want to make certain that people are safe. We want to make sure that folks are safe as much as possible. On our watch, on my watch, on the watch of the leaders, we want to make sure that you are safe, okay? And so we may ask you to sign in and give us your email address simply because if something were to happen and folks were to contract COVID, we pray not. We want to be able to do any tracing that we might have to do. That's it. That's all. Sooner or later, folks, we're not going to have to do this. Sooner or later, we will not have to do it. We just won't have to do it. And I hope that you're praying for that time when we will not have to do this kind of protocol. But we got to do it now. Okay, we got to do it now. So I just need you to be, just be like you have been. Be very patient with us and be cooperative. You have just been phenomenal in this whole situation. But this, you don't have to register. You don't have to register to come to the sanctuary on Sunday. You don't have to be vaccinated. You don't have to be vaccinated. We're not putting that on anybody, that you got to be vaccinated in order to come into the sanctuary. You don't have to be vaccinated. We hope that you will be vaccinated. Come on. We hope that you will be vaccinated, but you don't have to be vaccinated in order to come to the sanctuary. But again, I hope that you are or you have been, or you are going to be vaccinated. Okay. All right. And you will still be ushering folks to their seats. You cannot just sit where you want, because again, we're keeping that social distancing. We're trying our best. Y'all, listen, some people may not like it. Some people may like, oh, this is just too restrictive to be going to church. Well, okay, I hear you. But we are doing our very best to make certain that when we come together, when people come together in a space, in an enclosed space, that we are making it as safe as humanly possible. We're making it as safe as possible for you, so that we can worship in a safe space, and then without any fear where that's concerned. All right. And so we want to make sure that we're following the protocol. And I really appreciate you. Honestly, I appreciate the work that our greeters, our ushers are doing in this work. The health and wellness folks are just doing a phenomenal job in making certain that we are trying to be as safe as we possibly can be. Let's see. I'm running out of things that I can talk about without going into preaching. So I'm not going to do that this morning. We are waiting on Mr. Prophett to be here with us, and I feel certain that he will be here shortly. We are at 9:12, and don't go anywhere, please, because I do want you to hear him. I want you to hear what he has to say. One of the things that we already know is that Mr. Prophett is not in agreement, and I'll let him talk. He is not in agreement with the other three people who have been on where issue 3 is concerned. He is not in agreement with where Cecil has been, where AFTAB has been, where David Mann has been on issue 3. In fact, okay, so we're going to see him in 3 minutes. We're going to see him in 3 minutes. Y'all don't go nowhere, please, because I want to be fair to him as we have been to all of the other candidates who have been on. I want you to be able to hear his platform. But he will speak on his own. He has made it very clear to us that he is pro issue 3. Unlike the others that we have had on, he is all in favor of issue 3. Okay. And Benita, I get mine on Tuesday. I get my second shot on Tuesday. Yeah, I do. I certainly do. All right. Yeah, that's good, Nisa. Go warm your tea. I would go warm mine, but that would be dead airspace, and we don't need dead airspace. So I'm going to stay here, and I pray that you will stay here as well. He should be here, as I said, in 2 minutes. He was told to be here at 9:15. All right. So listen, just stay here. If there were a commercial, we would go to commercial break and then come back, but we don't have a commercial. So I need you to just be patient. Just be patient. Okay. Be patient. The other thing I want to say is when Mr. Prophett is on, as we have done with the other candidates, if you have questions, please, if you have questions, please ask them. Put them in the comment section, and I will do my best. I'll do my best to get them asked. Now, I can't ask all the questions. I cannot get all the questions on because I got some questions of my own that I'm asking. All right. But if you have questions, please put them in the comment section and we will be able to do that. So we have with us our guest is here. And we are so glad. We are so glad that you are with us this morning. We want to welcome you to Coffee with Bishop, Candidate Prophet. We're so very happy that you are with us this morning. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us on Coffee with Bishop. We've got an awaiting group of people who are anxious to hear your platform and to hear the kinds of things that are motivating you to cause you to run for mayor. So welcome. We're glad that you're here.
Yeah, well, Bishop, first of all, you know how the Zoom is. When I hit the button and you said, "Hey," I'm like, "Am I late?"
No, you're fine. You
Okay.
are fine. You are absolutely fine. You are absolutely fine. So we are very, very glad that you are here with us today. And some viewers may know you, others may not. So if you just bring us up to speed as to what it is that you've been doing politically or whatever over the last maybe three to 5 years, what's been going on in Raphel Prophett's life?
You know, first of all, it was a delight when I received the email from the invite to join you this morning. I just again, I've been a fan. Christ Emmanuel. Long history. I grew up in the Black church, and so Bishop Dantley always admired you. Great choirs there at.
We've always had the preaching's been mediocre, but we've had great music. We've had great music.
well, you're being modest, but again, it was a pleasure receiving the invite. So, again, a little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong Cincinnatian, born and raised here in Cincinnati. Born in Avondale. Spent my formative years in the West End and Avondale. As I said, grew up in the Black church. My father, Reverend Saul Prophett, was a longtime minister. When he passed, he was the pastor of Rose Chapel. My parents were divorced when I was second, third grade, but Dad was always in our life, right? And but I tell folks, I get my service from not only from him, Dad, he had a big voice, big heart, but he always led from the front as pastors do. But really, my service and as I thought through my life, my service, I really believe, comes through my mother, who was a waitress manager at Big Louie's restaurant at a couple of locations, and that's what I saw. I think I saw service really. I think how that was really ingrained in me from her, because she always her bottom line was about tips, and so in order to raise my brothers and I, but she always made people feel good, right? Because that would encourage them to give better tips. And then that even at her end of her life, that's what I reflected on. That she always had this personal relationship with everybody. At her homegoing service, that's what my brothers and I. That we were just so many surprised at all of these people. Where'd they come from? I didn't know. But she had a personal relationship, and I think it was all because of the service. And so that's sort of what's ingrained in me. And so, I spent, graduated public high school, undergraduate UC, certification Cincinnati State. I have a master's from Xavier. I spent most of my, professional life on Cincinnati Fire Department. First with the military, and then the fire department, and I had a co-careers. As a National Guard Reserve officer as well on the fire department. That's where my professional life, has been dedicated to. I have a wife, I have 3 daughters, 13, 15, 17, all attend public schools. But that's pretty much where my life developed. The last 5 years after, and I tell you, when you go to war, right, you get a different perspective. And so when I came back, I was deployed overseas in support of Afghanistan, Iraq wars. for a year, and I came back in 2012, and 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 that's when I retired, like in 2013 from the reserves, and that's when I had planned. And so I started thinking about what's the next chapter in my life, because I was coming towards the end of my fire department career. I had probably about another 10 years, and so I really wasn't thinking about politics, but I was thinking about how am I going to progress on the fire department, and that's when I went back and got my master's, preparing myself for an executive level or assistant chief. I was already a district chief on the fire department at that time, and so I did that. But when that didn't happen, right, and I will tell you, really disappointing. I tried like 5 times, but to 5 different positions for that came open, and I don't mince any words when I say that I was the best qualified, right? But and so then when I saw that didn't happen because those positions became more political in terms of how you were selected, I decided to run for president of our African American Firefighter Association. I had always lifelong member. I was treasurer like many years ago, but again. I had devoted most of my professional career to the military, fire department, and my family. But I also saw that our firefighter association had gotten off the road in terms of the advocacy that we were developed for. And so I became the president of CAFA, the Cincinnati African American Firefighter Association, in 2000. I think it was maybe 2017 or 2016. And so I stayed there and I was only going to be one tour because or one term, because I was going to retire. My plan was to retire from the fire department, which I did last year in 2020. And so it was really to turn the organization around and try to put a successor in place, because we had got off, in terms of the road of advocacy, and we became more of a social organization. And so I did that. That was a struggle, right? Change is always difficult, but that's okay. We persevered, and we believe because of our leadership that CAF is in a much better place. And now again, I'm thinking about the end of my career, and I'm at last year this time, and another firefighter and I, we started a nonprofit called Public Medical, in which we seek to transform public safety. And I had several different positions throughout the fire department, staff level as well as command level. And it was always challenging, because I saw, as one of the positions I had as the paramedic commander, I saw all of these disparities that we faced as a city, especially in the African American community. And I always saw efforts, we and others, to try to transform the fire department to really have some outcomes, some positive outcomes on a lot of these incidents, these runs that we make, that we determine were health related, a lot of them, and we could affect some positive change. That's always difficult, to try to change the mindset and the structure of the fire department. And so, but when I retired, because sort of have those insights, have public medical, and that's what we're seeking to do, is to transform public safety. We even tried to get the Sentinels involved, the police organization, collaborated a little bit with the Closing Health Gap. Again, trying to establish those relationships so that we can make some change to our public safety system, because most of the incidents that we make are health related. Even the police are health related, right? When you start talking about drug addiction, domestic violence, substance abuse. Just think mental health, PTSD. A lot of our people, children, because of what they witness, suffer from PTSD, post-stress disorder, right? The combat veterans, right? That goes on in our community. So, we're pulling that organization and then seeing how challenging it is to really get the leadership that can make these policy changes happen. And now COVID hit, social movement hit with these bad killings. And I thought in my inner circle, like, man, you ought to run for public office. Like, what? Like, yeah, what? It's like, yeah, I might think about council. No, man, mayor. Go for mayor, right? Because really, you looked at who was running for mayor at the time, and I thought about it, and I looked. I like, we had an older guy and a younger guy. And I don't think either one were up for the task, the challenge that now was being revealed because of all of these health inequities and disparities of COVID and the social inequities with these bad killings. And that's when I decided to run for mayor, right? And knowing that it was going to be an uphill battle. I'm an infantry soldier, right? We fight uphill, so I got no problem fighting uphill. So, but that's when I decided to run, right? And it was about our collective future. And again, and it's that service, right? That's rooted in me that sort of called for me to do it with the support of my wife and my family. And I knew it was going to be challenging. And then, right, all of this corruption happens. And so because I announced in October that I was running. A lot of folks didn't know. Obviously, I didn't have name recognition. So, but I continue, and here we are. Come Tuesday, I might have a chance to change some things. I know this. A lot of folks still don't know who I am, but in a primary, from the evidence that I've come to understand, is that primary voters are more informed, right? And so I might have a shot if they've been checking things out. I hope our message is getting out there, but I know I've maybe went on a bit too long, but that's sort of my background and where I am.
Well, I think it's important for the folks to hear that background, to hear your history, because name recognition is important in any election. And I think that the more people hear who our candidates are and hear where they have come from and the history, I think that's important. And also to understand what it is that the candidates are standing for, what it is that they are, what's on their platform. So if there were, I think I'm hearing what are planks of your platform. But if I were to ask you, what are three things that you want to see happen as if you were elected mayor? What three things would you like to see happen in the city of Cincinnati under your leadership?
Yeah, so number one, and that's even before the corruption was revealed, was just courageous, creative, and selfless leadership. I really think that what's missing in our political public service is, first of all, selflessness, right? It's got to be about all of us, not about your political ambitions or any opportunities that you seek. And that's sort of what I saw as a chief level officer, that the people weren't doing the right things. They were doing what was best for them, right? And so bringing and then courage, right? And I tell people, not the courage to run into a burning building or fight on the battlefield, because you're trained to do that, right? But the courage, the moral, and personal courage that it takes to really, challenge things to really make a difference. And then, just being creative, not the same old, doing stuff the same old way and expecting different. So that value, say, of selfless service and creativity and courage to really get some things done. And then, transforming public safety, what I just mentioned, that I consider myself an expert in, that we really have to get at the data, looking at, and that's what's been challenging, is public medical. We don't have the resources. We're a nonprofit, and that takes some resources, and it takes the ability to access information. Now, the city will give you anything you want, but they'll give it to you and they dump it to you, and they know you don't have the ability to analyze it, right? So transforming public safety would be the next priority that I would get at is the mayor. And again, through the professional city manager, make sure that person's qualified, because we haven't had a qualified city manager in this administration, right? The last three were not qualified. In other words, there is an organization, a structure, right? Just like I'm a qualified paramedic, I'm a qualified firefighter, I'm a qualified, I have several certificates, right? Well, our city manager ought to be qualified, because that that's going to help us solve a lot of these issues, because not only they have the experience and certification, but they have that network that they can talk to about best practices, right? So, and then this event that this issue 3, this affordable housing, is like, how timing, right? Right, because and I grew up in affordable housing, and a lot of folks didn't know that about Parktown. If you know about Parktown, it was really sort of created to be a middle income a community there in the West End, but what it turned into was affordable housing, right? You paid based on what you made. You had to make a minimum amount of money, but if you had like a professional person was living there, then my mom, right? She's a waitress, just a professional person. She paid less, but we had the same sort of quality, housing. And so that would be my third one, is affordable housing, and that's why I strongly support issue 3, because it's the first chance in a long time, if ever, in a significant way, to get at affordable housing. And I'm just not going for the disinformation. And that's what I call, people say disinformation. Don't you mean misinformation? I say misinformation is that you just got it wrong. Disinformation is intentional. You're intentionally telling people the wrong thing to deceive them in order to achieve what your message is. And that's, if you fund this thing, that you're going to lose some of your essential services, which does not have to be the case. And so, that's really, I just really, that issue 3 is just so timely, because it's just, now that I think our conversation is a lot more sincere now about it.
I know that you made it very clear that you support issue 3, and that there is a video that speaks to that. And so I'm going to ask our producer to do her very best to share that video at this time. Let's see if our control.
My name is Raphel Prophett. I served a combined 40 years in public service. I retired from the United States Army Reserves, where I served overseas during the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. I've also served in the Cincinnati Fire Department, retiring as a fire district chief. In my years of service, I was guided by my core values to do what is right, what is just, and what is fair. In all my years of service, I encountered and mitigated many crises and emergency situations. In Cincinnati, we're in the midst of a crisis that requires emergency action: the housing crisis. Over 40% of Cincinnatians pay more than they can afford for rent. An estimated 3,000 Cincinnati public school students experience homelessness on any given day. There is a shortage of 28,000 affordable housing units. Affordable means spending no more than 30% of your income on rent or mortgage. Issue 3 is a charter amendment that would create, maintain, and protect affordable housing in Cincinnati. As a retired senior military officer and retired chief officer of the fire department, I will not jeopardize the safety of our citizens, nor our dedicated men and women who serve in essential services. Funding issue 3 will not be off the backs of essential services. Issue 3 is a bold solution that begins to help all Cincinnatians have a safe, affordable place to call home and help our 52 neighborhoods thrive. I'm Raphel Prophett. I'm running for mayor, and I'm asking for you to vote for me and vote yes for issue 3.
Excellent. Let's talk a minute about those essential services. If that $50 million annually is given for affordable housing, let's talk a little bit about how that will not impact the essential services.
Well, and this is why, Bishop, this is what I ask folks. First of all, what the messages that coming from City Hall have been saying, right? and I got to say it, and I said it in one of the debates, that because these voters, this coalition came together, got 9,500 signatures. There's two ways that you can get a charter change on the ballot. That's one, is that the council can put it on there, right? Or citizens that require these thousands of signatures, right? And so that they went out and did. And our leadership haven't come up with any sort of way to accomplish, to create funding streams on how to support issue 3 if it passes. But what they have been doing is sending messages, documents to city workers to say, well, if this thing passes, this is what we're going to have to cut to support it. And so I think that's just intentional. That's the disinformation I'm talking about. Now, one of the recommendations I made is that we have $290 million that's coming from the federal government. Mm-hmm. You can take 50 of that and meet that first year of the requirement of issue 3. Right there you go. You met the 50 mil, and then you let whoever the next administration come in, and we figure out funding streams. There's hundreds and hundreds. The Inquirer sort of kind of challenging folks, because everybody says, hey, don't you have a solution for this? There's solutions out there. I don't make decisions, in a vacuum. When I was the deputy director of plans for United States Army Central, is that my responsibility, after given the guidance by the commanding generals, in fact, one of them I worked for, who's now the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, is that it's he sets vision and outcome, and then he puts the team together, in which is the deputy director. Is that my task was to facilitate the team to meet these outcomes, right? And we go out and find best practices, just like they are out there in our country. There's in the Inquirer reported over 800 municipalities have affordable trust funds with different funding streams. Just pick some, right? It's not that difficult. But again, not having a professional city manager may be, somewhat an obstacle to doing that. I don't know what's going on with the leadership at City Hall. I really don't. Other than I just think folks are self-interested. But Bishop, it's not that difficult. It just takes some leadership, courage, and some creativity.
Got you. So if you let's talk a little bit more, especially about the whole notion of essential services, and I want to talk more about police reform. A number of candidates have talked about how they might work with the city manager and work with the police. Certainly, the collaborative agreement is under re-review, if you will. What's your position on police reform? I know we're not talking about defunding police, not that kind of outright defunding of police. That's not what we're talking about here in Cincinnati. What's your position on police reform, however?
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, and I like to use the term transformation, right? And President Obama, he wrote his team, not him, but his team, right? And he set the vision, and they put together, and I can't remember, it's policing in 21st century or whatever. And it's really talking about transforming, policing, but it also talked about public safety, right? When you talk about, public safety, you're talking law enforcement, you're talking about, firefighting, you're talking about EMTs, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, and that sort of stuff. You're talking about, health, community health, right? In terms of our healthcare workers, right? More collaborative, infusing those. And we, one of the efforts that I was involved in when I was deployed is that anytime when when you're in another country, you try to understand how, when we used to call them these theater security engagements, how to better understand, the complexities of the culture that you're dealing with, right? And so some of the issues. And so, we would put together these structures. And one of the, we finding out, especially in Afghanistan, is that women aren't talking to men because their culture doesn't allow that. And so, but here we are, we have our special op forces, right? But they don't have any females in it. It's all male. right? The structure of it, how they structure it. And so, came up with a right idea. We have these, dedicated female soldiers that are, they're pretty hooah, right? And I met some of them, and I'm an infantry soldier. They'd outdo me, right? So what we did, we infused them in, right? And they were just as skilled, as our special forces, right? And now that became a lot more effective of relating with that, that culture, right? The Afghani culture to actually achieve these outcomes we were seeking. And that's what the opportunity presents with transforming public safety, is that we really have to, and part of, and I've been saying that about the collaborative, one of the improvements they can make is they got to do the data analysis. You got to look at every one of these incidents that we're making and see how that's going to best inform us, how we can structure our public safety forces. And the police are in there, that's law enforcement. And so it's always, and you got to understand the history somewhat of law enforcement too, right? It was always kind of like to keep those folks over there, right? Don't have them come over here, keep them over there. Right? So, and that's why I use the term transforming instead of reforming, transforming, moving it from this to this.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I know that we have a limited amount of time, and we want to respect your time. You've got a real captive audience here. We've got folks here who really are very, very, very interested in the city of Cincinnati. They are interested in the future of this city, very interested in this election. So if there were some words of wisdom that you would leave with this audience today, these viewers today, what might be those words of wisdom that would hopefully compel them to vote for you on Tuesday?
Part of it, because again, this is my city. As long as my wife says she's moving to Savannah, but anyway, I told her I'll stay here. She said okay. I was like, well, anyway, I plan to be here for as long as God continues to bless me with health and strength. So I'm here, and when I decided to run, it's like I knew, like I said, uphill, but if I win, I win. I get the opportunity to really sort of shape our city for the future, because that's what I'm doing it for. But also the opportunity for this platform, right, to talk about these issues that hopefully will resonate with some people. And then the third thing is that, hey, I get name recognition. If I want to run for something else, right, then okay, well, we heard of this guy before. But the most I guess excited to the main reason, or I think that I was most hopeful about, maybe the opportunity to develop, with the position to develop those leaders that are coming behind me, right? I've been in public service 40 years. I'm 61 years old. I figured I'd spend maybe 10 years, right? Doing this sort of work, right? As long as my energy held up. But the opportunity to shape and, and mold and develop, young folks. And, one of the things that I did when I was president I led to establish this ballot initiative in 2018. It called the PSA, Issue 15, where it was to create a public safety academy to shape young folks to become police officers and firefighters. When they graduated from this program, they would get 5 points towards the civil service exam, which is huge, right? The city never realized that. With the collaboration with the school board, they don't trust each other. And then you find out that these sort of programs are there. There's one at Great Oaks, right, in Hamilton County, one in Butler County, one in Claremont County, all of these counties, but nothing established for our children, right? An academy system, if you will, right? And so that's what that was most hopeful with this opportunity that I can, sort of be a part of helping develop the future of our next civic and political leaders. And Bishop, is that our between you and our parents, they just they were sort of not. They were misinformed and disinformed, and then also just didn't have the time because they didn't have the resources. So they were probably working 1 or 2 jobs to try to make things meet, right? And so, Right. And so now I've been blessed with, a couple of pensions. And so now, I want to use this time to sort of help develop the next generation. So that's and I don't know who's out there, but if you are like me, it's like I think that we have a responsibility, an obligation, especially as servants, to help shape and develop those folks that are coming behind us.
Absolutely. I agree. Totally. I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. Listen, thank you so much for being here with us. Again, I know we're on a limited time and we want to respect your time, but thank you so much for sharing your platform with us. Thank you for spending these few minutes with us. And we certainly do wish you well. Our goal, it was to get people to hear who are the candidates running for mayor. And you have certainly helped in that regard. And it's our prayer that things will continue to go well for you. And think about, I really do agree with the whole notion of preparing something for that younger generation, leaving some kind of lineage, if you will, some kind of history, something that will help our younger generation to move and go beyond us, surpass us, and to do the kinds of things that the city, the state, the country absolutely needs. Thank you so much for your time. Yes.
Can I have one request? If you're so inclined, if you can, that video, I know it's that it says vote for me, but just inform them about issue 3, because that's really what that created that video, because there's so much disinformation out there. If whoever will, please circulate it to as many folks as you can, just to give them another version, because what they're hearing is that it'll be off the backs of essential services, and that's just not true. But I don't know if people realize how serious really the crisis of affordable housing is. So my request of you, just please share it with as many folks as you can.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. I want to thank everybody for being here today. We had a double header today, and really, really very grateful that you were here to hear the candidates who are running for the mayor of the city of Cincinnati. Want to remind Christ Emmanuel, want to remind you that you do not have to make a reservation to come to church on Sunday. You do not have to make a reservation. We are still seating, social distancing. We are still doing that. You will still have to get your temperature taken, and you will still have to wear your mask inside. And so we're taking off the registration, but you still have to follow the protocol that we have established in the sanctuary. We want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 6 o'clock, right here, is Saturday night prayer. We're really grateful for the intercessors who participate, who lead us in prayer. I want to remind you that Sunday morning, even though we are meeting face to face, we always are live streaming as well. So we've got 2 things going. So if you are still uncomfortable about coming into the sanctuary, you still will get the service on live stream, and you get to stay in your pajamas and eat breakfast and all that stuff. I really kind of envy you, but nonetheless, we want folks to be in the sanctuary, and then folks who will be viewing on live stream. Don't forget Tuesday to vote. Everybody vote. I don't care if you never voted in a primary before. This is the first primary for you. You gotta vote. We must vote. Disenfranchisement and suppressing of the vote is huge these days. And so we have opportunity to vote. Please do vote. Make certain that you go. You may vote early. If you don't vote between now and Sunday, then make sure you vote on Tuesday. Make sure that you vote. And this election is vitally important. I remind you that, once again, the folks who are running for mayor, the folks who get the top 2 votes on Tuesday will be the ones who run in November. So this is a very, very important vote, as is issue 3 and issue 1 and 2. There's also on the ballot. Listen, thank you once again, Raphel Prophett. Thank you once again for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This has been Coffee with Bishop, and I'm so glad that you have been with us today. God bless you.